trying to get away with it.
Oh, I just spilled beer all over the keyboard. No! No, now my F8 keys don't work and there's just beer everywhere. Hold on.
Welcome to the No Budget Filmmaking Podcast, presented by Cinema Summit, a podcast about the art of making films, no matter how small the budget. And now, here are your hosts, Alex Darke and Trevor L. Nelson.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. This is episode 18 of the No Budget Filmmaking Podcast. I'm Alex Darke.
And I am Trevor L. Nelson. And today we're going to be talking about adding depth to your story as well, bonus, as well as to your image.
Oh, sneaky.
Sniggity snaps. It's happening. But first, what are we drinking today, Alex?
What
Are we going to surprise them? Are we going to surprise them again? No,
think so.
They should know.
Yeah, it's Kona beer. Big Wave Golden Ale.
Guys, we are down to 2 cases left of Kona beer.
Ooh.
And then we're going to go back to hard alcohol, even though our hard alcohol dispenser is giving us little fritzies.
It's haunted by a ghost that is also a drunk.
An alcoholic ghost. I don't know why, but for some reason this ghost likes to drink or something because our liquor is going away while we've been drinking Kona beer.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
In other alcohol news, Trevor has started to drink Patron XO Cafe in his coffee.
Yeah, we got this little alcohol thing in Vegas when we were there for Alex's bachelor party, and the guy threw in a bottle of Patron XO Cafe, but mocha flavored. I don't know if you've had the regular XO Cafe, but it is coffee flavored Patron, delicious. This one is a little chocolatey coffee, and let me tell you, if there's ever an excuse for me to drink more, it's being able to add some coffee chocolate flavored tequila into my coffee.
You should just take it home with you so you could have it every morning on your way to work.
Sadly, I have a bottle of Patron XO Cafe at home.
Perfect.
And I also have a bottle of Irish cream at home.
Nice.
So I'm all set on the coffee.
You don't even need coffee.
No, I know exactly. It just is so. I just add the Irish cream with the XO. So good. I also have a whiskey that I only use for coffee.
Good whiskey coffee.
Yeah, it's I think it's a Bushman's, and that's my Irish coffee. So yeah, I'm doing good on the coffee alcohol department at home. But thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks for looking out for me.
Sure.
Since you don't like coffee at all.
I don't like coffee. I prefer to drink straight whiskey in the morning.
Yeah. Ooh, that'll put hair on your chest.
Yeah, and other places.
All right, so what's new with us? If you guys couldn't tell from my voice and me not hacking up along, I am back to my normal health, which is not very great normally, but it's better than it used to be.
Yeah, you swooped back to a C+.
Yes, I'm only slightly out of breath now when I walk. I sweat just a little bit less than I was when I was sick, and other than that, normal Trevor.
Yeah, normal noises coming out.
Yep, I can't explain them, but they're normal for me. So
yeah, not
suck
bad.
It, guys. You're not doctors. Don't tell me what to do.
No.
What else we got going on?
We're going to a cabin this weekend.
Yeah, we're gonna
for a company retreat.
Just me and Alex. You follow us on Instagram. Not Cinema Summit, but Gilded Cinema, our, I guess you could say, parent company of Cinema Summit. We had a picture of our company holiday party in December that would consisted of us sitting at a restaurant with 2 beers.
Yep, there was that.
So now we have our company Cinema Summit's retreat. And that's going to be just me and Alex going to a cabin.
Yeah. Should be exciting.
Super exciting. We have a big project we're working on for Cinema Summit that we're trying to finalize, and we tend to see more creativity and more work done when we are not, not
in our normal surrounding. There's something about like being locked away.
Yeah.
Where you basically there's nothing else to do but work on it from like sun up to sundown. Yep. As it were.
Granted, we do usually get a 30-pack of beer. We'll probably be doing that again.
Yeah, we do that. And we also have what we call man meals.
Man meals, baby. Which consist of grilled steaks, deliciously grilled steaks, followed by just a can of beans dumped on the plate. It's a culinary masterpiece. When we make our restaurant, that is what we will be serving everyone if they ask for the man plate.
Not surprisingly, man meal number 2 is usually steak cut into strips.
Yes.
With refried beans in
Tortillas. It's just a lot of steak. That is what happens when we go to these retreats to get projects done. We just eat a lot of steak.
Yeah.
And drink a lot of beer.
We get drunk, and it counteracts the gout.
Yes, yes. So we start sweating from drinking, and then we continue the sweats from the meat. So we get meat sweats mixed with beer sweats. So this weekend's going to be fun. Super fun. Can't wait.
Yeah. Another thing, we hit 1,500 Instagram followers.
Check us out. I'll take that. That's cool.
Very exciting. If you haven't followed us on Instagram, check us out at Cinema
Thanks
Summit.
for nothing for helping us reach 1,500 if you haven't added us already.
It's real exciting. I think we have 17 photos up right now.
Yeah, I know. We have some stories.
Trying to get better about that.
We do some stories, though.
Do some stories.
Yeah. Also, we just shot this week some more videos for Stage 32 answering members' questions about filmmaking. Those are going to go up on their blog, stage32.com/blog. So look for them there in the upcoming weeks. And then also we did a live video on Facebook answering some Reddit questions we have. So we're going to keep doing those, jamming you guys in the face with our voice and our faces, which,
Man, it's really exciting. So,
sorry, guys.
Check out facebook.com/Cinema Summit.
Yep.
Like it. Get all our junk straight to your junk.
On that note, what do we do? Let's get to the main topic. So talking about adding depth to story and image.
Oh, yes.
We're going to go start with story. So in your screenplay, a lot of people, maybe they haven't heard the word adding depth to a screenplay or adding depth to a story. But basically, you get a lot of first-time filmmakers and first-time screenwriters say that their script kind of just hits the notes, just bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, it's on the nose.
It's on the nose. It's kind of boring. It's just every action is just a move to the next scene.
Right.
There's nothing really adding a lot of layers to it. Mm-hmm. And you'll see people mention that a lot if they're writing the screenplay or if they're reading someone's screenplay. A lot of times, you need to add some more depth here. So what, to you, Alex, are some ways that you could add depth to your screenplay to make it more interesting, make it more complex, and thus more interesting?
One of my favorites that I always try to think about, no matter what script I'm working on, is adding dilemma, which, if you think of it as sort of like your characters having to make the choice between two equally terrible options. Yeah. I feel like
point of no return kind of thing.
Exactly. So, and you can have multiple dilemmas throughout. It doesn't have to be just like one major dilemma that is driving them, but you can have little mini dilemmas where the character has to choose between two things, or like there's a fork in the road that can go one way and have a pretty bad option, go another way, have a pretty bad option, and they have to work their way through it. Yeah. And I think that adds a lot of, really nailing down the dilemma adds a lot of depth, because basically having a weak dilemma means that one of the choices or both of the choices aren't really that difficult, and therefore it's not that interesting.
Yeah, there's not much at stake.
Yeah, it's all about the stakes, basically.
Which I think adding dilemma is the idea, and I think it's another fancy word for dilemma is subplots. If you look at and when we say adding depth, go look at read a couple screenplays or watch your movies and see how they add dilemma to the characters' stories and how they add subplots, because that will add emotion and depth. So it's kind of this idea of what's the motivation behind the character. And it doesn't have to be your main character. It could be a secondary character. What's their motivation? And that motivation comes maybe from a side, a subplot. So something that's going on in their life that isn't directly connected to the story, but is driving their reactions and actions in the main plot.
Yeah, and similarly, there can similarly to the dilemma, where you can have multiple dilemmas, you can have multiple subplots going on too, with different characters. Each character can have their own subplots. Yeah,
I'm on the Billions kick.
Oh yeah,
big fan of that show. And there's a lot of subplots. There's characters that have their own story going on. There are the main story, I guess you would say, is Paul Giamatti's character Chuck going against Damian Lewis's character Bobby Axelrod in that battle.
Yeah.
But there's so many subplots going on in there and side stories that just makes you care about. Oh man, I got a little bit of a tickle. Makes you care about the other characters and makes you interested in it all, because there's never a dull moment, because if you're away from the main story, you're still on another story or another subplot that is interesting.
Yeah, and not only that, but like, in terms of adding depth, like everyone has, like, there's a billion subplots happening to everyone at any given moment, like that's what makes us multidimensional. Is we have like family that we're juggling, work, we have school, we have hobbies, like our own issues, inner turmoil, things like that. Like all these different things can come out as subplots that really help shape a character and give your audience an idea of who they really are. Because the cool thing, like about In Billions, you really get to know the characters kind of through the people around them. It's not just all relying on their dialogue and like their own actions. You see kind of hints of who they are really, and like versus like what the show that they put on for everyone else. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like another layer of depth that you can get into, which is the surface versus the internal. Yeah,
and I think Alex touched on it a little bit, but didn't really dive into it. Look at your own life. How many subplots do you have going on in your life? I could say that me and Alex, our main plot is, Cinema Summit and Gilded Cinema. But there are so many subplots in the business world or like in our careers. And that's just one plot, our careers. Then you have our personal lives. Alex just got married. I'm sure there's a lot of subplots there. Boy, do I know that. Will they, won't they? There's tons of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean...
Meet cutes.
Just look at your own life and realize that there's a lot of subplots, and that's what makes life interesting. When it's kind of funny to say, but when people say, I'm in a rut, it's probably because they don't have many subplots. It's they're doing the same thing, following the same plot, same thing. Wake up, go to work, come home. Wake up, go to work, come home. Wake up, go to work, go home. There's no subplot. Even go to the gym or doing something else is an added subplot that adds excitement to your life. And so you got to take that into consideration when you're writing your characters.
Yeah, and that's not to say you can't have a character that starts out that way, where they are in a routine like that, but they have to eventually experience some change. They have to come across the dilemma or whatever, the actionable force that pushes them through the story, and then they have to grow and change. Otherwise, what are we really doing? If there's no change, it's not a story.
Exactly. And adding to that, I mean, this all goes back to character building. So give your characters background. Give them, because again, those are subplots. Those are dilemmas. Where they grew up, how they were raised, what experiences they've had in life before we start seeing them in this story, and that'll give you some depth. It'll motivate their actions. It'll motivate their reactions. It'll motivate everything. Why does this guy actually an informant for the FBI instead of being truthful to the mob and stuff like that? That's all a subplot based on the character's background. I mean, you can think of The Departed and why those two guys were in different situations from their background.
Yeah. And speaking of a show that is really good that I started watching.
Which one?
Sharp Objects.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
My God, is it good.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first episode, it's about an hour long, the first episode, maybe a little bit over.
Are the other episodes half?
No, they're equally, but they're kind of like, they're just like randomly, they're not like all 26 minutes.
Gotcha.
Or whatever.
Gotcha. Some's like 50, some's a minute, an hour and 10. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first episode is longer than an hour. And the first like 40 minutes, there's very little dialogue, and they do a really good job of setting up the character background.
Ooh.
Through visuals and just sort of like mood, you have this kind of like gross mood and like these actions that she's performing that get you in like this
from her past.
There are flashbacks as well.
Okay, but the things she's doing in the current time, builds her background up.
Exactly, and it's all done really well with like the aid of music, but very little dialogue for the first half of the episode, and it's pretty cool. I like the way they built her character out.
I don't hate that.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I gotta check out that show, but I'm like, the wife is stuck on Billions, so that's all we're watching until we're caught up. And so now
we only got a few episodes left.
That's true.
A few seasons.
Well, we're on the third, so we're good there. So aside from that, I would say the final thing you gotta do is understand the arc of your story.
Yeah.
And do you want to get into that?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with what we were talking about when it comes to like change. You know,
Yeah.
you have to know the trajectory of your character from point A to point B. Do they end up back in the same spot? Did they go through a change and then realize that they can't change forever?
And that's fine. I mean,
and
Alex,
they go back. Sometimes that happens.
Alex had said, like, oh, you got to change, or what doesn't matter. Well, I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't change and then go back and realize, you know what, I should never have changed, or I can't change.
Yeah.
Or, you're right back where you started from. There's a lot of movies that do that, where they go through this whole journey, all these trials and tribulations only reveal that they can't escape their past. They are who they are. They didn't change. They can't change, and stuff like that. So know what your middle point is. If there's a point of no return where it's kind of like, wait a second, can I change?
Yeah.
Do I want to change?
I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to find a script where the character didn't change at all throughout the whole story.
True.
Because that is ultimately what the story is. It's about the journey that the characters take. And through that, they learn things, they meet people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the nature of storytelling. And that becomes the story arc. So I think it's important the traditional method is the 3-act structure.
Yes.
But you don't necessarily have to stick directly to any of that stuff. And you don't necessarily have to have like the character change, dramatically throughout. It could be like just at the very end. It could be at the beginning, and then they're working through it or whatever. It's like there's no set formula for it.
Yeah,
per se.
they could be in the same spot they started, but their perspective has changed.
Yeah.
Or the fact that they, in terms of what I was saying earlier, like they don't really change. Like they're still in the same position. They know this is what the life is. But in the beginning, the idea that they can change is a different mindset. And at the end, when they realize they can't change, that their mindset has changed. So there is change there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, yeah. You get it? You get it, guys.
You guys get it. Yeah. Yeah.
What about you? Anything else on the story?
No, I
story
think
level?
that's it. I mean, just add layers, and that usually comes in characters and dilemmas and actions and things that you can't always plan for it. They always say when you're writing your script, let the characters guide you in terms of what they would do, and that comes from the background and their subplots and their internal dilemma, their internal conflicts and their dilemma of how they would react.
And I think the kind of first comment you made about how people, some first-time writers or novice writers tend to be pretty on the nose and all that comes back to the fact that they haven't really perhaps rounded out their characters well enough or their story arc. And so they're just dealing with the surface level stuff.
Yep.
And they're not digging into the character background, the internal conflicts, the dilemma, the subplots, the arc, and all that kind of stuff.
And that's where drafts come in handy. The first draft is usually just getting the whole main idea on paper, and then you go back and you start, adding in this subplot and adding in these details that add depth. So don't feel that your first draft has to be like, oh my God, this is everyone knows your first draft's not perfect, but don't even think that your first draft has to have all this depth in it. You'll do that as you're learning about your characters, as you are, living in this world as you're writing it. You'll get subplots. You'll see where a character goes awry and stuff like that. So it'll come with practice. It'll come with drafts. Don't fret about it in your first draft. Get your main ideas down and go from there.
Nice.
Now, as a cinematographer, Alex,
Yes.
how do you add depth to an image? So, you want to get that cinematic look. You don't want the person to blend into the background. You don't want the background and the person to be in focus.
Yep.
You want to add depth in terms of, interesting imagery and also just within the frame. You want to add depth. So, give us a couple of tidbits.
Sure. Well, there's quite a few ways.
Oh, okay. Never
Quite
mind.
a few.
Uh-huh.
The most obvious one is depth of field. Everyone talks
Because
about
it has depth in the name of it?
It does.
Oh, that's good.
It
That's
does.
good. Yum, 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 yum.
And it has field in it.
Oh.
So,
Yeah. Field is from the French word, which means depth.
Yeah,
So
so
it's
it really
basically
means
depth of depth. Yep.
It's confusing.
I bet you guys didn't think you were going to learn languages today. Mm-hmm. Taco.
So, yeah, depth of field. I think people can go overboard with depth of field, especially with the huge sensors and fast lenses that are digital cinematography today.
Well, explain to the people who may not know the technical term of depth of field. What is depth of field?
So depth of field is when your focus plane becomes narrower. So your background is out of focus.
Such a nerd.
But your foreground or your subjects are in focus. Yeah. So you see this all the time.
Street signs behind a person are out of focus. You can't read them.
You get the twinkle lights that are just creating like the big blobs of light, like the blurry bokeh lights.
Yep.
All that's depth of field, and you get that by having your aperture wide open on a big old big sensor, and you can get some really, really, really shallow depth of field.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of light.
A lot of light. And yeah, I mean, that's one way. And I'd say my opinion on that is use it sparingly.
Okay.
Don't go ultra wide open at an F or T 1.2 if you don't have to. I mean, I think when you look at most movies and you think about what seems cinematic to you, there is depth of field and there is the out of focus background, but it's not so shallow
that you can't make out anything that's back there.
And that you can see the focus puller just like, going crazy trying to keep whatever in focus. And I mean, the one movie that has always stood out to me in regards to that is Fruitvale Station. I saw that in theaters, great movie. But I did notice in several of the scenes they were chasing focus all over the place.
Yeah. One thing you'll notice, and you know what, when you're starting out in filmmaking or when you're in a no budget situation, what you'll notice a lot of times is people will be like, you know what, this doesn't look very cinematic and I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah.
And that is probably because camcorders and things like that and prime lenses, non-cinema lenses don't always give you a shallow depth of field, so everything's in focus, and that is a dead giveaway to like the whole idea of like this is a camcorder or this is not the most expensive equipment. There are ways to get around that, but you'll notice that if you ever watch a film or like a low budget thing that somebody shot and they're asking for critiques of it and all that, and you notice something's off, you just can't tell what it is. It usually is the fact that they have a very big depth of field. Everything's in focus. You can read everything, and and documentaries do this a lot too because they're moving in all the time, and they have to make sure that they get everything in focus because you never know what's going to pop up.
Yeah.
The interviews might not be interviews will probably have a shallow depth of field, but like the actual action shots of the walk and talks will all probably be have a deep depth of field only because it's necessary.
Yeah. And I'd say when DSLRs first came out, the depth of field was what people were like really going crazy over, because it was the first time a consumer with like pretty little investment could have this crazy, huge depth of field look to it. Because before, like with the camcorders, you had to do all sorts of goofy tricks. You had to like put the camera 20 feet away, zoom in, and do all this stuff. And so I think because of that, people started to overcorrect a little bit.
They went too crazy. I have the power to create a shallow depth of field. It's going to be super shallow.
Yeah.
Dude's ear's going to be out of focus on his head.
Exactly.
Yep.
And on the same topic, kind of, side rant, I went and saw Mission Impossible Fallout.
Okay.
I saw it at IMAX.
Ooh, look at you. So you didn't use MoviePass?
I did not.
Wow, look at you. Somebody's got money.
Because I couldn't. It was, impossible.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Was it a Mission Impossible?
It was.
Wow. Wow. Can't use that. We're going to get sued.
But one thing that I noticed on this giant IMAX screen is that there was a lot of that movie. A startling amount of that movie was out of focus.
Really? Is that just because of the action?
No. It was in the most simple, standard coverage, shot, reverse shot scenes you've ever seen.
Chris McQuarrie, what are you doing? Get your
Hair.
Oh no.
Hair sharp, eyes soft. What's happening?
Why was that?
Anyway.
Why do you think?
I think it's because, they were shooting on film, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And so, I don't know, just error. Just standard error.
Boo this man.
I thought maybe they were doing this weird thing where perhaps it was just the IMAX version, like they were shooting on IMAX cameras and then also at the same time shooting on regular film cameras. So if that's the case, I don't know.
Ooh.
I don't know about the non-IMAX version, but...
Yeah, maybe I'll go check that one out. I want to see it, but yeah.
Quite good. I liked it.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to see that, though. I want to see that out of focus stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. So next thing I'd say is the play between light and dark. You can add depth with that because, again, another kind of, not issue, because I guess you could say it's a choice, but like something in indie films that I see that is like a dead giveaway that it is kind of like low budget and they don't have a lot of gear is that it's all pretty, like the background is too bright.
They're just blasting light.
They're just blasting light, or they're just using the available light and they're not like shaping it at all. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yep.
So something I would suggest is if you're in like an office with overhead lights and everything's just like super lit, like get up there on a ladder and twist out some bulbs, you know?
Yeah.
Get the light off the walls so much and things like that and just create like pools of light.
I was going to say, I remember my cinematography professor always talked about pools of light. You don't want everything to be blasted. Have like little pools of light, little areas that are brighter than others, and make the background interesting. You're just using light.
Exactly. And so that I think is huge. And there's times when you want things to be more like lit and flat. Mm-hmm. You know, the normal response would be to say that like comedies should be or are typically more like flat and overlit.
Gotcha.
You know? Mm-hmm. Because it's not trying to create like a dark mood or anything like that. It's just trying to highlight the jokes.
Yeah. I mean, the comedy, I can't think of the last comedy that I thought was like, oh man, the cinematography on that one. Woo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, play around with the light. This is also where it comes in handy to scout the locations because you don't, I mean, even nowadays in documentaries, when they're doing the sit-down interviews, they're not, they're playing with light in the background. So, you have like somebody sitting at the camera, looking directly at camera. They still light the background to make it interesting.
Yeah.
And they don't take that for granted that, oh, you know what, it's just it's an interview, so whatever.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I also think, the varying tones is actually kind of like what creates the depth. So if you look at a black and white image, if you imagine everything, you're shooting everything in black and white, how would you create, depth?
That's true. Yeah.
You can do it with the light and dark.
Yep.
So the next thing.
Yes.
Foreground and background, adding objects in the foreground.
Oh.
This is one of your favorites, I think. But it's
I don't
highlighted.
hate it. I'm not going to frown upon it.
Sure. It's highlighted by depth of field quite frequently. Mm-hmm. But the idea of having like a chain link fence in the foreground and you're shooting through it or something like that and it's out of focus or...
You tell me you don't like that?
I do like that.
Oh, yeah, so shut up. I love it.
Or, shooting really low and seeing like feet walking in the foreground as you're looking at, the characters in the background or something. It's just like having action or objects or something happening in the foreground.
So it looks like they're part of the world. I mean, like, somebody sitting at a park bench and having people walk in front of them.
Exactly.
That just adds to this idea that they're in a world rather than just it's stuck on them.
Yep, exactly.
Don't be selfish, characters.
Don't be selfish. Let's see. What's the next one? Do you have one?
I mean, I always like, this is kind of music video-ish, but atmosphere, like fog, smoke machines and all that.
It's actually not music video-ish.
You don't think so?
It can be if you're really heavy-handed with it, I guess. If you have like the fog on the ground, like Thriller or something.
Or my rap videos that I like to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just adding some, creating the environment, adding a little smoke, or like sometimes the smoke and putting a beaming of light through a cloud of smoke will just add some depth in the background. That just gives it a nice little look and makes it, again, you want to make it seem like they're in the world rather than just staged.
Yeah, and I think you would be surprised how many scenes from your favorite movies have a hazer going, because
the world is hazy, guys. The world is dirty.
Hazy. I mean, especially in like morning scenes, when people just wake up, you see like the dust floating around and there's this like thick kind of haze. And what it does add like the shafts of light, which is cool, and it can create depth, but it also creates like a softness to the background. Without having, it be because of the depth of field. Yeah.
And then some of these tricks you can take if you do not have the equipment that'll give you that shallow depth of field, like the haze in the background will make it seem a little out of focus. If you can't with your equipment make it out of focus.
Yeah, I mean, an example of it's called atmospheric perspective.
What? Look at this.
For you guys.
Nerd.
A classic example of atmospheric perspective, if you are to look at a mountain range.
Okay.
And you see the different layers of mountains, how can you tell which ones are closer? It's because the ones that are farther away get like hazier and hazier.
Have the clouds touching them, kissing them.
Yeah, well, they just get hazier.
Yeah.
Like, it can be a solid color with no clouds in sight, but they just seem like hazy.
Yeah, that's a good example. Look at you.
Yeah.
You should be a teacher.
It's art.
Oh,
it's art.
You should be an art teacher.
Speaking of art.
Yes.
The next thing is perspective.
Oh.
You can use perspective, which, man, how do I explain perspective?
Yeah, this one's going to be hard. I want to hear how you explain it.
Okay. So, perspective exists in art when you see the angle of buildings, and you're like, how do you get those to look like they exist in space? It's because in reality, lines travel along what's called they travel to a vanishing point on the horizon.
There we go.
So if you look at a road,
the road goes to a point.
That goes to the horizon line. It comes to a point and it expands out as it gets closer to you.
Yep.
And that is because of perspective and the vanishing point, etc. And if you are looking along a street, for example, with buildings, the lines on the buildings also follow the lines to the vanishing point. That's how it works. But anyway, it's kind of like in how you can use it in film is if you're, like, for example, in a long hallway and the character's at the end of the hallway and the lines all kind of like intersect where the character's at, and they draw your eyes towards the character. It's about using angles.
Yeah.
And
the natural lines that are in there because of the perspective.
Exactly.
Draw the eyes with the environment.
Mm-hmm. And you can also combine these things. You can use lights. You can use light and shadow to create the angles that draw your eyes to them. You know what I mean? You can do whatever. It's like, these aren't like just separate rules. They all kind of intertwine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, perspective is a great one. You can get different perspectives by raising and lowering the cameras.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like, and also the perspective deals with not just depth of field, but also with, I mean, it portrays so many different things too. Put the camera up high, looking down on a subject, that person feels powerless and small. Put it down low, looking up at the person feels more powerful, feels more in control.
Yeah.
And so perspective is not only just for, depth of the image, it's also for depth of the story.
Totally. Totes.
My goats.
Totes. And I think when you add perspective, if you're like stuck on a shot and you're like, this doesn't look interesting enough.
You want to make your shots interesting. I mean,
you can pretty much point to perspective, I think.
Oh, okay.
To try to make it look a little bit more interesting.
All right, I'll give you that.
Like, instead of shooting flat against a wall, you can shoot like raking against it.
Yeah, Yeah, instead of having the person in the middle of the frame with the, hallway going right behind them, you can move them to the side a little bit and see that deep perspective.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Exactly.
Anything else, Mr. Cinematographer?
Well, I think that's all I could think of at the moment.
I mean, that's pretty good. You got about 5 of them in there.
Yeah.
I guess. I was expecting more from you, but...
Oh, I guess we could also talk about, in terms of light and dark, it's kind of, again, how they all kind of intersect. You got light and dark. You got foreground, background. You got atmosphere is the idea of, like, silhouettes,
Oh, yeah.
Like, you could, like, even, not necessarily even, like, silhouettes of people, but think about, like, the shot looking up at people looking into a sewer. You have that, like, dark circle and them looking through it or something like that.
Yeah.
There's different ways that you can use light and dark like that with silhouette to create a cool composition and depth.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm trying to think of, there's tons of examples out there of just like a blown up background and you just see the outline of a person.
Yep. Sicario has some of that going on.
Any of those old school train tunnels.
Oh, yeah.
You got the train at the back with the light blaring.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty good.
All right.
There's a lot of depth to that conversation.
There was. All
right, so what's cool now? What is cool with what we think is cool in the world of filmmaking? Now, I'm trying to decide if this is cool or not.
Yeah.
So the government is thinking about rescinding the law that made it illegal for movie studios to own their own theaters and theater chains.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I don't know if you guys know this, but did you ever go to United Artists Theaters, UA? Yeah, there's a theater chain called UA.
Yeah. Didn't Tom Cruise take over that?
He took over the studio because there's also the studio.
Yeah.
Charlie Chaplin started and Mary Pickford started United Artists.
Right.
And that was a studio. And then they also owned theaters.
Right.
So that was declared illegal and a monopoly by the government. So they had to diversify and, sell their interest in those theaters. Mm-hmm. And then UA for a long time was an independent theater chain. But now, excuse me, I still have a cough. I don't know why. That's just this delicious beer. Now they're thinking about reversing it so that like Walt Disney could own AMC or Walt Disney could own Edwards Cinema. Now Walt Disney does own a theater. It is El Capitan. But this is a little bit bigger deal, and I'm trying to decide if this is cool or not, because on one side of it, I feel that it could hurt independent filmmakers and low budget filmmaker people because, say, Disney has a Marvel movie, they only want to show it in their theaters, so they're going to pack their theaters full of their Marvel movie.
Yeah, and
so there's no wiggle room for other people to get into those theaters if they have a small movie that Disney never produced. Sure. Or has nothing to do with.
Sure.
But on the other side, say, now that even though that Disney is going to own Fox now, say Fox had their own line of theaters. Well, Fox is only putting out, let's be generous, 10 movies a year?
Yeah, 10 to 12, something like that.
If they're sticking to just Fox movies in their theater, there's going to be times when they don't have any movies in there. So they're going to need independent cinema because they're not going to want to show a Disney movie. They're not going to want to give Disney money.
Right.
So there may be room for them to take an independent film because they just need people in the seats. Because if you guys don't know, a lot of movie theaters make their money from concessions, so they just need people in the theater to buy the snackums. And so I can't decide if this is good or bad for independent filmmakers.
Yeah, I can't decide. I tend to be leaning towards bad.
Yeah, I always tend to see when the major studios have control over more, this is bad.
I mean, this law doesn't just exist for movie theaters.
It's a monopoly law.
It's like the antitrust law, right?
But I think each like industry has their own antitrust laws, so they could just rescind it for movie theaters, but not but not for everyone else.
Interesting.
But like for me downtown, I have one theater. It's the Regal.
Sure.
And if that's only showing like, a certain studio's movies, I'll be like, are you kidding me? That sucks.
Right. That sucks. I don't think they would do that. I don't think
I would
they
like to
could
think
do
they
that.
would. Yeah, they wouldn't be able to survive. They wouldn't have enough movies in there.
No. But what they're going to do is it's going to be second run of those movies. So they're going to have been out somewhere else before.
Yeah.
And they're going to probably fight about like rates and stuff. And then there's going to be some studios that are going to
tickets are going to go up even higher.
Not want to put their movies in certain theaters because they won't give them the good rates or whatever,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a great idea.
No, I don't either.
So
we shall see.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't love it.
So on the other side, what is cool? Why did I get my cough just suddenly came back after being gone for 5 days?
Oh, man. It was never gone.
Yeah, that's true.
It was never gone.
That is so true. All right.
Meanwhile, I feel fresh as a daisy.
Yeah, but your wife is getting sick, so it's probably going to hit you soon.
It's true.
Take it in right as we go to Vegas.
I know.
Yep.
Okay, so one thing that I think is pretty cool, DaVinci Resolve 15 is finally out of beta.
Man, this thing is looking sick. I'm going to have to give it a try.
Ooh, it looks pretty sweet. So this version, it combines the editing aspect, which they introduced.
Yep.
The color grading, which has been
the bread
industry, leading for a little while.
Yep.
And it combined Fusion inside Resolve, which I think is pretty bomb.com. You can, do big composites and like motion graphics and effects inside of Resolve instead of having to go to a different program like Nuke.
Yeah.
Or like After Effects for Premiere.
Yeah, it's got within DaVinci it has audio mastering. Mm-hmm. It's got visual effects. It's got coloring. It's got titling. And if you do so it's free. Gosh, jeez. But that being said, if you want to pay $300 for the studio version, that adds, you can work on a project at the same exact time as with someone else.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Crazy. So if me and Alex are sitting in our studio and we have a network drive that we both are connected to, we can open the same product and see us moving things around and like making edits in real time.
Well, not only that, I don't know if is that true?
I thought so. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just giving DaVinci Resolve too much credit.
I thought it was that you could work in each one of those particular tabs simultaneously. So, like, I could be working on the coloring tab while you're working on the sound mixing tab.
Maybe we should have looked into this before I just blatantly threw some features out that may not exist.
I mean, who knows?
Who knows?
Feature request.
Let me see what we got here. Let's see. You talk about what else is cool.
All right. So, I want to give a shout out to one of our listeners.
I'm going to say this name for Alex because he was having...
yeah, do it.
His name is Caleb Therio. Caleb Therio. I hope that's right, Caleb. I apologize if it's not, but I'm going to go with Therio.
Caleb is one of our listeners.
Yeah,
and
surprisingly.
He contacted us through the blog and through Facebook, and he told us about Amazon Story Writer, because in a previous podcast, we had been asking for suggestions for screenwriting software because we were moving away from Adobe Story, which they shut down, unfortunately, because we were using that and it was working out pretty good.
Loved it.
We moved from Celtics to Adobe Story, and now that Adobe Story's gone, we're going to have to figure something else out. We're leaning towards Fade In Pro. But Caleb brought up Amazon Story Writer, which is really cool.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know about it, it's a free program. It's web-based that is made by Amazon. And, I think I heard somewhere, maybe it was like in a group, someone was saying that Amazon owns the rights to the scripts that you write in it, and that's not true.
No.
But it does give you the ability to sort of streamline your submission process to Amazon if you're hoping to get Amazon Studios to look at your script and produce it.
Speaking of, before I'm going to cut in, that was one thing. Right when the government rescinds that law, Amazon's buying Landmark theaters.
You think so?
No,
Landmark?
They already have the deal in place.
Why Landmark of all theaters?
I don't know. I don't know. I wish I did, but let me double check that. But
Amazon, AMC, A for Amazon, you would think.
Oh, are you kidding me?
It's like the biggest one, isn't it?
Yeah, but the Chinese bought into that a while ago. They're not going to sell that.
Maybe not.
I doubt it. They're probably going to buy
Alibaba.
Yeah, they're probably just going to
theaters.
start a theater that the company that owns AMC is probably just going to start a movie theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway.
Yeah. Did you? Sorry, I was looking up at Da Vinci. Did you mention that, Caleb? We were looking around at it. It doesn't seem to be able to do offline. They took away the Chrome extension. Yeah,
they had an extension. I don't even know how it worked because Chrome extension suggests that you still need to be online. But everything that they point to on their website that suggests offline capabilities is no longer around.
Yeah, so
which is a bummer because otherwise it would be
fantastic.
Prettybomb.com.
We'd actually use it. So I think we're still leading towards fade in. We've taken a time out on our scripts because we have this big project we're working on. But when we get back into it, I'm going to probably do some fade in stuff.
Yeah, I think we'll probably give it a try. I saw, who was it? Pro Video Coalition, which is a blog.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know it.
Yeah.
Had an article from Moviola.com.
Ooh.
Moviola.
Yeah.
That said, Fade in Pro is the best kept secret in screenwriting or some crazy headline like that.
I'll take it.
You know, it's got a lot of features. It's got some testimonials from people like Rian Johnson from Star Wars fame.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. Yeah. On other things of what's cool, so NVIDIA is putting out some new graphics card, and these are a little different because they have new architecture in them. I don't know if you guys are ATI or NVIDIA freaks, but NVIDIA for Premiere has CUDA, which is just kind of a graphic accelerator built into the NVIDIA cards that Adobe products could take advantage of.
Yep.
Well, they say this new architecture that they have, which they're calling Turing architecture.
Turing, like the Turing test?
I don't know. Maybe.
Or is that Turing?
I think it's spelled the same.
Interesting.
TURIN. I don't know.
It's AI. The computers are taking over.
Oh my gosh, they're going to be voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
So that they say this is the biggest advancement in graphic card architecture since CUDA, and they tout that it's going to be much easier to edit 8K, which no budget doesn't scream 8K. But
I don't know what does scream 8K.
Visual effects. Visual effects, man. So
why do you have to edit in that?
I mean, I think it's just dealing with 8K footage is probably what they're saying. So, if you have some 8K plates, then you can, crack those bad open with the new NVIDIA cards, and it'll be completely fine because these things are built for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I do like that everyone is just like proxies.
No, we don't need proxies anymore.
Like, that's just a stupid step. I'd rather buy a $20,000 computer to edit my 8K raw footage than use a proxy.
Yeah. Because I got money. Yeah, we all know that there's no budget filmmaking podcast does not scream money. So no. I don't know what we're hoping for. Yeah. So NVIDIA is going to get some new cars coming out. So look for everyone talking about 8K being the next big thing like they did for 4K. And just building.
4K is barely rolling out to the public.
I know, right? But people are going to talk about 8K now.
Those peeps that bought the 4K TVs when they were like $8,000 are going to be like, dang it.
No, I'm going to buy an 8K. Here it goes, even though no one's going to be producing 8K forever.
I know. And then when they finally start producing 8K stuff, they're going to be like, guess what, guys? We're rolling out 12K.
Nope, 32K.
32K. Boom. We're skipping all the Ks.
Yeah.
All right. So another thing that I saw, talked about this before because I have one.
Okay.
The Elgato Stream Deck.
Oh.
It's pretty cool, but they just released a mini version of it. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Stream Deck is a little control surface that has an array of buttons. The buttons are little LED screens, so you can sort of change the functionality of them. You can map them to whatever you want and use hotkeys, or they have some built-in programs that they are like tied to. But you can use it for anything. So I have mine mapped for all the hotkeys for Premiere, After Effects, Photoshop. You can do OBS, which we're going to do, other live streaming things. You can like launch whatever, basically anything you can use a hotkey for, you can program it for this thing. And they just released a mini version that just has 6 buttons. It's pretty tiny, kind of cute, whatever. If you don't need like a ton of buttons.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to use about 4 or 5 hotkeys in Premiere.
Yeah.
So
I mapped mine out pretty full. So I'm using all the buttons.
You use it regularly?
Well, I don't do a whole lot of editing.
Yeah.
But when I do, I like it.
Yeah.
It's nice. Especially, I mean, especially in Photoshop and things, like the hotkeys in After Effects and Premiere that I use, it's just like 5 of them maybe, or like 4 that I use regularly.
Gotcha.
But
it makes it so much easier not to have to remember it if you haven't been to it in a while.
Yeah.
Oh.
In Photoshop, it's a little bit more useful, I think, because it's not just like 2 tools that it's not like you're using the pointer tool and the razor tool all the time. You know, it's like you got so many different tools. You got different things for like dodge and burn and pen and like fill and paintbrush and then clone stamp, and you got all these different things you can use, and it just makes it so much faster.
I know. I am slowly leaning towards needing to get a Stream Deck because it just seems so much more user friendly and better. Just because I love hotkeys, I just love hotkey, and it makes things so much easier.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be useful. We should set it up for our Facebook Lives, maybe.
Oh, we should totally do that. Yeah, because it works with OBS, right? I mean,
it does.
It doesn't work with. It's just as long as the thing has keyboard hotkeys, it just maps keyboard strokes.
It does, but OBS is one of the programs that it actually has like API connection to. I think.
Okay, we need to hook that thing up ASAP. Like next time we do a Facebook Live, we can do nice intros and stuff like that. So let's do it.
Yeah,
let's do it. Let's do it next time. Okay, so before I get to the final, what's cool, or it's it's kind of like the studios owning movie theater. Is it cool or is it not?
Cool?
I don't know. I want to give it to you straight because we are all about facts here. We're all about facts at this No Budget Filmmaking Podcast. So I was thinking you were right about Resolve. I know, shocking.
My God.
It's, I thought you were right. It says all the work is tied together, managed by a powerful database. This is about collaboration, which makes it possible for editors, colorists, VFX artists, animators, and sound engineers to work together simultaneously. Okay. Mm-hmm. It says each user logs in and can work together on the same project. And I was like, okay, so your colorist can be doing it while you're doing the editing.
Sure.
Fine. That's what it is. But then it says multiple assistants can prep and sort footage. So I think I think it literally is like, you know what? Like I can be editing while you're editing. Users can lock bins and timelines to protect their work so that nobody can touch it.
Interesting.
And get a load of this. Built-in chat.
Built-in chat?
So you can chat with everyone who's working on that project at the same time.
That's cool.
And it's so, here it is, and this is the final nail in the coffin for our question. Mm-hmm. When multiple people work on the same project, you may ask an assistant to tighten up a cut or to finish the scene for you. When they're done, you can use the new timeline compare tool to visually display where clips have been added, deleted, moved, or trimmed.
Wow.
This makes it fast and easy to accept the new changes.
Maybe. I mean, if you have like a huge timeline, that would be crazy.
But at the same time, I mean...
yeah, that sounds cool.
And you can use like Synology and all that to store it all and all that, and it works perfectly. I'm leaning towards DaVinci, man.
Man, I kind of want to try it out.
I definitely want to try it out. But finally, the what's cool. So there is a story coming out. If anyone out there is a big film nut, they will know the name Tony Kaye. Does anybody know that? Do you know it, Alex? Do you know who Tony Kaye is?
K.
Okay.
Is he the guy from the classic film White Christmas with Bing Crosby?
I hate you. He is the man behind American History X.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
So he is doing a new movie called Second Born.
It's called Smiley Skull Stompers.
Smiley Skull Stompers.
The sequel to American History X.
Perfect. You know exactly what the movie's about. No surprises at the theater. Smiley face skull stompers.
Yeah.
American History Story. He's doing a new movie called Second Born. And what's so incredible about this is that he wants to cast a robot as the lead actor in the film.
Do you cast a robot or do you build a robot?
Well, get a load of this. He wants to pursue getting the robot SAG recognition.
What for?
I don't know.
So it has its own dressing room?
I don't know.
So who gets the money? The owner of the robot?
There's a lot of weird things about
It's
this.
like a child?
So there's a lot of weird things.
Until the robot grows up and
Yeah.
goes off to college, it can't touch the money?
So here it is. Tony Kaye wants a robot to play the lead in his movie Second Born, which is actually a sequel to an independent comedy Firstborn that has yet to be released.
An independent comedy?
Yes.
Firstborn?
Yep. Starring Val Kilmer.
Really?
Yep.
Is it also
Okay.
by Tony Kaye?
No.
No, he's not affiliated with it.
So he's making a sequel to someone else's movie.
Is his sequel a comedy? He doesn't scream funny to me, but maybe
He doesn't at all. I don't think they have the details about his movie. Okay, so he wants to cast a robot as the lead.
Right. Okay, I guess he does scream funny to me.
The movie, from what everyone can see, isn't about robots. So it's not like he's going to play it like the robot is a robot.
He's trying to find a robot that can pass for a human.
Human.
But why? Tell me why.
I don't know. I don't know.
Man.
Maybe to I don't know. I don't know what I'm more shocked of is the fact that he's casting a robot in a lead in a movie about that's not about robots, or the fact that he's casting a robot in a lead for a movie that is the sequel to someone else's movie that hasn't come out yet.
That has no robots in it.
And is a comedy. I mean, I guess
there's
we'll
a
wait
lot.
and see.
There's a lot about this that just screams publicity stunt. It's like, do you remember who Tony Kaye is? Nope. No one does. But also, guess what? He's doing this thing. No, he's not. He's just making a movie, and now you'll know about it.
I mean, this is also the dude who took out ads against Edward Norton because they had a feud during American History X.
Yeah.
I mean, he wanted to get recut. He sued New Line for $200 million. I mean, this guy's weird. So it doesn't surprise me.
I'm thinking it's probably not going to happen.
I also think it might be some kind of publicity stunt to get it,
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. It's very strange. They're very strange. But what a great thing to end on. Giving all just disaster to actors out there thinking that they could at one day be replaced by robots.
I mean, I've yet to see a robot that even looks remotely human.
Well, there was that sex robot that was at a conference.
I don't remember that one.
I don't know. I just heard something about it, and the robot was terrorized. Of course.
Oh God,
America can't have nice things.
No.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, what's that girl? What's that lady robot's name? That just started walking.
oh yeah,
But it's autonomous.
yeah.
Is he talking about an autonomous robot or one that's
don't know.
controlled by remote control?
I gotta think it's controlled by remote control.
Yeah, there's no way.
There's no way it's up to the snuff of
Also, you're gonna have to use a voice actor.
something.
You can't.
Yeah, I know.
You're paying twice for
Yeah.
actors here, buddy.
Yeah, yep.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I like how this discussion about the actor as a lead role in a movie that's a sequel to a movie that he had nothing to do with that hasn't been released yet is almost as long. A discussion about that is almost as long as our podcast. The
You're
rest
right.
of the podcast.
All right, we're done.
Yeah, but I do like the fact that we're both just like, what the hell is going on? So close us out, Alex.
All right.
I'm just frustrated.
That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you for joining us. You can get the show notes for this episode by visiting nobudgetfilmmaking.com/episode 18.
And if you like this episode, leave us a comment. Be so kind to, and let us know that you like this episode. We always like hearing from you guys. It means a lot to us. It warms the cockles of our cold, dead hearts to see that people like this podcast.
It does.
Yeah.
So don't forget to hop on over to iTunes and subscribe. And if you're there and you happen to be like, what do I do next?
Hanging out. What else can I do on iTunes?
What else can I do? Give us a 5-star rating.
Oh, that's what you can do.
And leave us a review. We love seeing those, reading those. It's very fun.
Makes us feel that we're accomplishing something, which we're probably not, but
it does.
Yeah, and also like our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram at Cinema Summit for our 17 photos that we have up there so far.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
we'll catch you next time.
That'll do it. See you later, guys.